Hey, it's Don Skaggs again with Empowered Inventing, where we try to help you not just talk about your idea, not just think about your idea, but actually do something. Learn, plan, and do. That's our mantra here. You have to learn the right things to do, what successful inventors do, then you have to plan it out, and then you have to do it. You have to execute. And today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the story of a product, one of a product of mine, and I want to tell it in a way that that's kind of interesting. The product was called Sorbatex, and it was this little piece of paper that you see here, but it had something in it that was very, very special, that did something very special. Now the problem in these laboratories is they would have these specimen containers, and they were about yay big, and they had a liquid in it called formaldehyde, and they would transport these specimens. They would drop that little jar, specimen jar, into a bag, and they would put a requisition in that bag saying, here's the patient, here's all the information, and then they would ship that to the laboratory from the hospital or from the surgery department or from wherever the procedure was done. And the problem that they had was that the specimen container would sometimes leak. It would leak into the bag, it would get all over the requisition, it would just be a mess. It would be formaldehyde sometimes, it would be different items, depending on what the specimen was, but it would leak, it would be a mess, it'd be a real headache and a real problem for these laboratories. So we came up with a product that we called Sorbatex. And this product, it was just the coolest thing, is that you would take this and pack it and drop it into the bag, and if anything leaked, it would every bit of it absorb up into this packet, into this little piece of paper. And depending on the size of the problem or how much they were removing, sometimes it was almost as small as a postage stamp. And how did we sell that though? How did we get that across to solving that problem? Well, we had what I call the wow moment. Well, what's known in the industry as a wow moment. And what we would do is we would take some water, and we would take this water and I would pour it into a cup like this. And I would take this and I would take this little packet and I would drop it into the water just like that. And then I would start to talk to them. I'd start to talk to them about the product. I'd start to talk about what it does. I would talk to them all about these different things while this was happening. And in just a short period of time, in just about a minute or two, before I was done talking, this thing would turn into this. This complete, utter solid. You can't squeeze this. This isn't a sponge. You can't get the water back out of it. It's trapped in here permanently. And this was what we called the wow moment. Pretty cool, huh? So this little thing, people just loved this thing. They would just, their eyes would get big and they'd go, wow, that's amazing. You took that whole cup of water, and as you see, this one's almost done before I'm done talking, and completely turned it into a solid. So how did you do that? And they would see it, they'd see how cool it was, and then they would want to buy it to use it to solve their problem with. And that's how we sold it. So my question is, what's your wow moment? And your wow moment for your product, your idea, your startup, it may be very, very different. And one thing I tell a lot of people to do is to make a study of infomercials, because infomercials are really good places where you can see a lot of wow moments. They're really having to get their idea across really, really quickly, and they have to have a wow moment in there. And there's several that come to mind for me. One is a product called Mighty Putty. If you've seen it, it's kind of a repair putty thing. And in the infomercial, and this was an old Billy Mays, if you know who Billy Mays is, commercial, and he'd say, it has the power to pull this tractor trailer, and they'd put something together with this Mighty Putty product, and they'd pull a tractor trailer with it. Another one you've probably seen, it's more recent, the product called Flex Seal. Have you seen that? Where he replaced the bottom of a boat with a screen door, and he covered the screen door with his Flex Seal stuff, and then he got out with a paddle and he got out on the lake with it, and he was like paddling around with it. That was a wow moment. There was another product out there called the Dual Saw. It was really cool. Actually saw it, I kind of wanted to buy one. They cut a car in half with this thing. It's just like this little saw product that they sold. But then they would saw an entire car in half, and then they'd take an egg out, and then they'd just make this little clean cut in the egg just to show that the blade was still good, everything still worked. Another one was Mighty Mended, kind of like the Mighty Putty. I think it was kind of a cereal product maybe, and this would be something that repaired cloth. And they said they cut a parachute, and then they repaired the parachute, and they had somebody jump out of an airplane. We repaired this parachute, and he jumped out of an airplane with it. That was a wow moment. And I say use infomercials, and infomercials are really good places to look this stuff up. But that's not just, wow moments aren't just for infomercials. Our product was sold to laboratories. Actually, if you're B2B or you have a different industry that's really not consumer, really not a infomercial, your wow moment may actually be more impactful because they don't see them as much. People don't utilize that effect. Now, I have seen them done. There was a barrier cream that a rep in laboratories used to go around that I'd bump into every now and again back in the day, and he put this barrier cream on it, and he had this wow moment. I personally would not have done this. I don't care how much I believed in the product, but he had this barrier cream. He said it was like it was gloves in a bottle. It was either gloves in a bottle or something like gloves in a bottle. But it was this barrier cream product, and he'd put it on his hands, and he'd say, this is like having gloves on, this is protecting me, and he'd actually have the lab pull out a bottle of acid and pour the acid into his hand, and he'd sit there and talk while the acid was in his hand and say, see, it's not burning me. This stuff really, really works. That was his wow moment. Again, don't know if I'd do that, wouldn't recommend doing that, but he did it, and guess what? He was very, very effective, sold quite a few of those to laboratories after he did that wow moment. So you have to find your wow moment. Your wow moment, it needs to be off the wall, it needs to be something that's very, very, grabs your attention. It's that just on steroids type thing. What your product does on steroids. It has to be demonstrable of the product though, first off. Has to be demonstrable, so you don't just have a wow moment for a wow moment's sake. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to do this really, really cool thing. Well, if you focus too much on that and not on really the fact that what that product will do for them, if it's not related, if the wow moment's not related to what the product is going to solve for that customer, then it's just a wow moment for a wow moment's sake, and it doesn't work well. Have it do something that puts what your product does for them and puts it on steroids. And also keep a focus on why your product is better than anything else out there, and make that wow moment just tell that in picture with 1,000 words. Another thing is keep a focus on what you're solving, so that you're solving your customer's problem. Keep a focus on that. You have to get them to think, if it does that, I know it's going to work for me. That's the beauty of the wow moment. So anyway, here I've talked for a few minutes, and here's the new one. Here's the one I just did, and as you can see, there it is, complete solid. Hey, pretty cool. So anyway, this was that was our Sorbatex product. We had a lot of products like that. We had a lot of wow moments, had a lot of fun with it, but you can too. You can with yours, and it will really, really help sell and market your product. So anyway, think about what your wow moment is. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, I'm Don Skaggs. This is Empowered Inventing TV. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and like, subscribe, whatever social media you're on. But do please help us build our tribe. And check out our website again, empoweredinventing.com, and I will look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, maybe one of our online classes, or on the next video.